I believe, especially if you're a pro athlete. Now, I can do this for a long time. Kristine can do this for a long time. Doctors can be doctors for a long time. Teachers can be teachers for a long time. But athletes can't be. And so I think when you're in a profession where there are certain limitations on the length of it, take advantage when you rarely have leverage. I don't think that's being greedy. That's what the owner of the company does. I've had, you know how many bosses I've had leave me for better jobs? You know how many owners I've worked for who have sold things or bought things for better opportunities? I can do this for a long time, but a pro athlete, and let's talk NFL here, in a sport that's got regulated violence, there are limitations to how long you can play. So when you have leverage, I would strongly encourage you to use it. And yet, quarterbacks never do in the NFL. Drew Brees, right now, first, second, third best quarterback in the league, says he doesn't plan on testing free agency. Now, he can't be franchised. He doesn't plan on testing free agency. Drew, have you seen Jacksonville's defense? Have you seen Denver's defense? Have you seen Minnesota's defense? They don't have a quarterback for next year yet. If Drew Brees hit the market, Minnesota with Drew Brees, next year's Super Bowl is set from the NFC. Jacksonville, Denver, Arizona would all make bids. They would make bids. I mean, Minnesota's got Case Keenum, often hurt Sam Bradford, Teddy Bridgewater, and some four-string guy. You don't think they'd make a bid on Drew Brees? Think about this. In America's number one sport, NFL, the number one position, quarterback, and Drew Brees is the third best at it on the planet. There are days he's the best. No, I'm not going to test the free agent market. Colin, he loves New Orleans. He likes Super Bowls more, I assure you. Remember in 2010 when Peyton Manning was a free agent, really hit the market? I mean, Pete Carroll drove to the airport, and Jim Harbaugh flew cross country, and he was coming off a fourth surgery. Brees is healthy. Just came off one of his best games ever. I don't get it. Let me give you 3 reasons why Drew Brees should strongly consider hitting the market. Number 1, New Orleans had 3 losing seasons before this season. This is not New England. This is not Green Bay. This is not even Pittsburgh. They are hot and cold. They're now hot. It won't last. Number 2 is Drew Brees lost Sunday in large part to a coaching staff mistake where they called a timeout late and didn't tell a rookie safety, hey, kid, wrap him up. Don't go for the pick. Don't go for the interception. Yeah, this play was off a timeout. That's not good coaching. They're at least as culpable as the kid. And number 3, Sean Payton is not aging terribly well. There have been multiple incidents this year, a throat slash, mocking the Minnesota crowd. He has gotten the choke sign at Devontae Freeman, yelling at Dirk Cutter, penalty at the end of the first game against Atlanta. I'm not going to dive too deep into this. It's juvenile. If a high school football coach did that, the principal would call him in on Monday or the athletic director and say, hey, coach, scale back. If a college coach did a skull chant, a choke sign, yelled at an opposing coach, had a penalty at the end of a first game against Atlanta, a college athletic director on Monday would say, coach, scale it back. 3, 4 strange, emotionally juvenile incidents with Sean Payton this year. No idea what's going on there. Have my suspicions, but it's time to at least test the market. Okay, this is not New England or Green Bay, where they're in the playoffs every year. They were a mess for 3 years. They've had 5 defensive coordinators in 11 years. Your coach has gone zany, and that coaching staff did a poor job of supporting you on Sunday late in the game. It is absolutely remarkable to me that a smart guy like Drew Brees, who I'm sure is a really smart agent, could test the market, and he's not interested. Hey, man, he's a legend forever in New Orleans. And I'm not saying he doesn't love the city. but he loves Super Bowls more. They all do. You don't get this good without being concerned about yourself, number one, and your family. And Drew is and should be. But it is remarkable how a marginal NBA player can hold a franchise hostage, and that a star quarterback who could go to Super Bowls with the right fit at a perfect exit point won't even consider free agency? 4 words. I don't get it. Sports makes us very emotional. It makes me emotional. I mean, I'm watching the Saints and the Vikings. It's crazy, right? I go online, I watch all these videos on the internet, people in Minnesota going nuts. Sports makes us really emotional. I mean, none of us would doubt that, right? We have our favorite teams and our least favorite teams and whatever. And great moments make us lose all perspective. So it's like alcohol. A little bit of alcohol makes you fuzzy a lot, and you lose all perspective. A little bit of sports makes us fuzzy. Highly dramatic moments make us lose all perspective. I'm hearing all this stuff about the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they gotta re-sign Case Keenum here. Oh boy, this guy Okay, here are the 6 free agent quarterbacks of note in the NFL this offseason. Garoppolo, Brees, Kirk Cousins, Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Bradford. Yeah, 3 are Vikings. If they hit the market today, Jimmy G, because of his age and upside, would be number 1. Brees would be number 2. I mean, he's obviously the best, but there are some teams that would perhaps pass. I don't think there's many, but I would say Garoppolo on the open market, because you get 13 years with him, would be 1, Brees 1A. Kirk Cousins would be the 3rd. Case Keenum maybe is the 4th. So in a free agent market that's not offering much at quarterback, he's 4th. And I say 4th at best. Some may take Bridgewater. Some may take Bradford, although he's often hurt. Case Keenum is 6 feet tall, 210, with average feet and arm. His mobility is meh. His arm is meh. In NFL history, one quarterback at 6 feet, 210, with average mobility and an average arm has been a star, Drew Brees. And he is the most accurate thrower in league history. Like Case Keenum, he's not Drew Brees. But as I say this, I wouldn't franchise Case Keenum. Because of that game, I think there's a chance that teams will overpay for Case Keenum, a 6 foot, 210 undrafted quarterback. Because sports makes us fuzzy. A lot of highly emotional sports moments make us nuts and lose perspective. So the Minnesota Vikings front office is smart enough to put together this roster, which is the best overall roster in the NFL, in my opinion, and in many opinions. But yet you think, and they are clearly not in love with Keenum, you think they're whiffing on the quarterback position. They built the whole roster. I mean, they've got 4 quarterbacks right now on the roster. That's a pretty good indication they're not really sure about Case Keenum. See, this roster built by the front office that you know is smart. If they pass on Case Keenum, there's a reason they should pass on Case Keenum. You're going to go into a division with Aaron Rodgers the next 5 years. You're going to play him minimum 10 times. The best quarterback talent probably of my life. And you're going in with average arm mobility, 6 feet, 210 Case Keenum, who, when surrounded by a good coach and an unbelievable roster, tremendous wide receivers, and the best defense in football, maybe outside of Jacksonville, maybe not, with a huge, they say, 4th best home field advantage, that's what Vegas says now, you're going to sign him up. It is amazing what a fluke play can do to people. Come on. It's like Miracle in Minnesota. Remember Miracle on Ice? We beat the Russians, and people in America went crazy. It's probably the biggest sports moment of my life. And we beat the Russians, and we had a goalie named Jim Craig. Jim Craig was not an NHL goalie. Nobody thought he was. He wasn't an elite world-class goalie. But he won that game, and he got drafted by the Atlanta Flames. And I think in his career, he played for 4 teams in 30 games. I'm not sure how many he started. People went crazy. Miracle on Ice. Miracle in Minnesota. Case Keenum's a great kid. I think he's the best backup quarterback in the league. But you got to be kidding me. Like these people, I'm reading stories now, you got to franchise him. Not a chance. We see this every year in March Madness. Because we tend to root for the underdog, right? Undrafted guys. Jimmer Fredette, BYU, little guy, shoots a lot. Oh, my God, Buddy Hield, a senior. Oh, my God, have you heard his story? Shabazz Napier gets hot March Madness. What did I say about Fredette, Napier, and Buddy Hield? These aren't NBA stars. I mean, they're not NBA. Jimmer Fredette, Tim Tebow did this. Tim Tebow beat the Steelers, and America was like, you got to give him a 10-year deal. Nobody's ever talked about this part with Tim Tebow. The following week, they played New England and lost 45-10. Tim was 9 for 26. Yes, when Tebow beats the Steelers, when Jimmer Fredette's great in March Madness, when Jim Craig is great against the Russians, when Case Keenum's part of a miracle play, we all go nuts and lose perspective. Case Keenum's not a guy you build around. He's 6 feet undrafted, 210 average arm, so-so mobility. Nice kid, nice story, great backup, emergency starter. I don't buy for a second you give him a franchise deal. Not for just take a deep breath on this. This Minnesota front office knows what they're doing. There's a reason they got 4 quarterbacks in the roster. They don't trust any of them. They don't trust any of them.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.